So, we've all seen the Happy Noah's Ark murals, giant boat, grinning animals, maybe even a rainbow. But every time I read the real story in Genesis, it just hits so much harder. It's way darker, way bigger than a bedtime tale.
I always felt the same. Those storybook images kind of miss how unsettling the narrative is. The flood isn't just about animals being saved. It's about a world so broken that the only option is, well, starting over. That's intense.
Totally. And I think most people, even grown-ups, don't realize just how radical the flood story is. It's like cosmic heartbreak and hope, all tangled together. But let's back up. What was actually so wrong with the world back then?
What stands out to me is how Genesis describes the world as filled with wickedness and violence. The word for violence, Hamas, isn't just punching and fighting, it's the whole system breaking down, injustice everywhere, the powerful steamrolling the weak.
Exactly. It's like the opposite of the harmony we saw at creation. The world's social fabric just unravels. If you picture society as this woven blanket, by Noah's time, it's more like a bunch of tangled threads.
That image makes it so vivid. And in the middle of all that mess, somehow, there's Noah, this one guy who's still holding on to goodness. I always wonder, what did it mean for him to be just and walk with God in a world like that?
It's wild to imagine. While everyone else is leaning into chaos, Noah's living differently. The text says he walked with God, which feels so personal, like he wasn't just following rules, he had a real relationship.
That's a good point. It's not about him being perfect, but about trust and connection, even when the world's upside down. I guess that explains why Noah becomes the vessel for preservation. He's not just surviving, he's carrying forward what's worth saving.
And that's where the ark comes in. I've always thought of it as a lifeboat, but it's really a symbol for hope in the middle of all that undoing, right?
Exactly. The ark's like a floating world, almost a new Eden. It's packed with every kind of animal, raw materials for life like God's starting kit after the reset button is pressed.
And think about the trust involved. Noah's building this massive thing on dry land, following instructions that probably sound bizarre. His neighbors must have thought he'd lost it.
That's got to be one of the wildest leaps of faith in the whole Bible. But then once it's built, the chaos arrives. And it's not just rain. The text says the deep breaks open, the heavens burst. It's like the world's structure is collapsing.
That's what really stuck with me. Genesis says the waters above and below crashed together just like before creation, when everything was formless and void. It's like the universe is unraveling back to square one.
It's honestly chilling when you realize it's not just a local storm. It's creation in reverse. The order from Genesis, one dissolves into chaos, and all that separates life from destruction is that one ark bobbing on the waters.
And for 40 days and nights, it's just Noah, his family, and the animals adrift waiting for something new to emerge. There's this feeling of suspense and total vulnerability.
I get chills picturing that the ark rocking on endless water, the world erased outside. It's like the whole future is balanced on that one wooden boat.
It makes me wonder what it felt like for them. Every sound, every creak must have echoed. And then, when the flood finally starts to recede, there's hope. Noah releases a raven, then a dove, looking for signs of life beyond the horizon.
When the dove finally flies back with an olive leaf, that's got to be one of the most moving moments in the story. It's not just a leaf, it's the first sign that creation is coming back.
Right. And then the ark comes to rest on a mountain. I love that detail. It's like a landing after everything got wiped out. It must have felt both surreal and terrifying to step out into a world washed clean, but totally unfamiliar.
I imagine the silence must have been overwhelming. Their first move is to build an altar, to pause, to say thank you. That sense of deep gratitude, even after so much loss, really says a lot about Noah and his family.
And it's in that moment of thankfulness that God responds not with more rules or warnings, but with a promise.
What amazes me is that God's response isn't just relief that it's over. He promises never to do it again. There's something deeply hopeful about that. Like, even in judgment, there's a commitment to mercy.
And the rainbow. I'd always seen it as just a pretty after-rain thing, but the symbolism is huge. In ancient times, a bow was a weapon. Hanging it up in the sky, it's almost like saying, I'm done fighting, let's try something new.
That changes how I see every rainbow. It's a visual reminder. No matter how messy things get, there's a promise that chaos won't win forever.
So if we zoom out, the flood is about more than punishment. It's this cycle undoing and remaking. The world becomes so corrupt it has to be reset. But the story doesn't stop at destruction.
Yeah, and what stands out is God's focus on preserving life. Even in judgment, He saves a remnant, plants seeds for something better. The ark is grace in the middle of chaos.
And that promise at the end, the Rainbow Covenant, means God isn't giving up on humanity, no matter how flawed we are. That's powerful.
It actually flips the usual way we talk about the flood. Instead of just being about what was lost, the story's heartbeat is what gets preserved: life, relationships, possibility.
And it's comforting, honestly. The idea that even when everything else is falling apart, there's space for a new beginning. The ark isn't just survival, it's the hope of restoration.
Makes me wonder how that theme plays out in our own lives. Are there moments when we're in a kind of flood, waiting for the waters to recede so we can start over?
I think that's what makes the story timeless. The flood isn't just about judgment, but about a God who sticks around, who promises stability even when we mess up.
It's a pretty radical takeaway. God works with us as we are. The flood narrative says, yes, things were broken, but I'm not abandoning you. I'm making a way forward, even from ruins.
And that's the thread that runs through so many ancient stories. Not just the fall, but the hope of a do-over, the chance to get it right.
Which makes what happens after the flood so fascinating. Humanity gets another shot, but do they really change? The very next story is Babel, a new kind of challenge.
Yeah, it's almost like Genesis is inviting us to see ourselves in these cycles. We get clean slates, but we're still human. Next time, we'll dig into Babel, ambition, pride, and why we can't seem to stop building towers.
That story has its own twists about unity and confusion. But circling back, the flood reminds me that no matter how many resets we need, the invitation to start fresh is always on the table.